The other part of this ritual is reflected for me in the scripture. Depending on which version you read, some conglomeration of ladies, women, came to the tomb to anoint Jesus' body. And it's very present for me right now, the anointing of bodies. We've had some deaths here in the community and in my family. And the process of anointing and blessing is so important for all of us. And what this ritual can also mean for us is the kids are screaming. We love that. Happy Easter. They're on candy. Right? Woo! And that ritual of caring of life and death, because there's no difference between them. Death is part of life. And that acknowledgement and the care is what we all demonstrated now as we care for this wreath, this ceremony, and ourselves. That is going to be exemplified in our talks today. We have 4 different talks that I'm going to present to you now of people who I've asked from the community to share their story. And so I'd like to start with Reverend Eleesabeth Hager. So I'm going to invite Eleesabeth up to platform. Would everyone give her a warm welcome?
It was the best of times and the worst of times, as it always is. My story is as ordinary as dirt and as extraordinary as the fertile soil of the well-tended garden. It is my story of not enough. We all have a story. As a hospice chaplain, I've noticed many of our stories, human stories, need to be overcome. It's a lifetime's work. Until we do this, until we fully digest our stories, they will keep arising until we attend and tend them. It's a lot like grief. Loss is the boss of us until we name it, and then we're the boss of it. I have rewritten my story of not enough with patience and love and higher principles, but not until I could see it. That's the thing for me. That's the stone that needed to be rolled away. I needed to name it. It's a foundational story. Not dramatic. Not dramatic until you see the bridge collapsing from the time-lapse movie of the bridge collapsing from a lack of a good foundation to hold it all. That's what happened to my life at the millennium. My brilliant tech business collapsed. Personal and corporate bankruptcy. My husband and creative partner of 11 years left. My brother died in a skydiving accident, and my diva mother fell into my care for the next 10 years. Like I said, the worst of times. And I found new thought again in this church. The caregiving journey oddly healed me, and being taken care of healed my mother. But I couldn't do it when she was in her prime. It was all storms and tornadoes for us then. As she unraveled in dementia, she began time traveling, and it softened her. That illness untangled our storyline year by year very clearly, because as my mother time traveled backwards, I saw her story. I saw her development. I saw the reasons for her narcissism. Even though there was a lot to be grateful for and proud of, right? As the daughter of a narcissist, my childhood was by definition troubled and confused. I am an artist. She is a CPA. She was on a mission to annihilate me, it seems for my own good. This is deep. This is subconscious, subcutaneous grief. It's not a well, it's an entire aquifer. For most of you who have a hidden story, maybe a similar flavor to my own, the journey to enoughness requires of me patient parsing of both stories, with principle and perspective and, yes, forgiveness. The decade of caregiving changed both of our stories. It allowed me to say hello and to get to know her before it was time to say goodbye and before it was too late. Our stories are the boss of us until we name them, and then we have power over them. That is also the reason that I'm starting Unity Spiritual Direction in the fall, to help accompany you to name your own stories. Because if we think we're on this journey alone, we are lost. We are moving together here in the timeline with Spirit, in the time stream together. Hidden no more. I remember better with resurrected stories. My lovely enoughness is internalized, and it's also the name of my third book, the story of her, and then us, and then me, and now my partnership with Spirit and the I Am. I am whole and complete and fully in the fertile soil of process with you. And for being my community in the best of times and the worst of times, I thank you.
Reverend Eleesabeth Hager, everyone. Thank you. You can give that to David.
The parts we can't tell, we carry them well, but that doesn't mean they're not heavy. The parts we can't tell, we carry them well, but that doesn't mean they're not heavy. The anonymous ones, noticed by none. The parts we can't tell, we carry them well, but that doesn't mean they're not heavy. David Montecalvo.
I want to let you all in on a secret. I'm gay. Now, that may not sound like a surprise because my boyfriend's sitting over there, and you may have seen me sing last year in the Pride special. But for 33 years, I was dead to that side of me. Here's my story of how I came from death to life. It was May of 2020, and I was sitting in a Target parking lot in Arlington, Texas, with a bottle full of sleeping pills that I just bought. I didn't want to die as much as I just wanted the pain to end. I had been forced to move to the area by my ex-wife's job, and when the marriage died, I was left all alone, and my job was in jeopardy due to the pandemic. I felt like I had sacrificed so much for the God out there, and I was being crucified. I felt like there had to be some level of hope in the midst of every door that I'd open to slam shut in my face. So I took the handful of pills, made it home, ran up the stairs, ripped my Bible in half, and threw it in the trash can. Went to sleep. Thankfully, I did wake up the next morning, and a couple of days later, I was on the phone with my cousin Angela, who lived in the East Bay, along with the rest of my family. Hi, Mom. And she said, "You don't need a job. Just come out here. Be with family." And of course, I had a litany of objections, right? I wanted a job, and I was absolutely afraid because this was the biggest risk that I'd ever taken in my life. Yet I knew that if I had gone to California, I would at least be in a place of my choosing, and I would be surrounded by people who supported me. So I took the leap. A month later, I found myself in San Francisco, the city of my dreams. For some reason, my entire life, San Francisco had always represented abundance and freedom. And these were two areas that I desperately needed in my life. I was so grateful because I was able to land a job so quickly in the midst of a very difficult economy. And so I had found my home. Now, during this time, kind of in the background, I was looking to explore a side of me that I had never explored before, my sexuality. So I had the quintessential San Francisco gay man experience. And it left me empty and broken. And it was even particularly difficult because we were in the midst of a global pandemic. I just knew that there had to be more connection for me. During this time also, I was working to try to go through my struggles with God and spirituality. And I came across New Thought. And it just kind of made sense to me. And as Easter approached last year, I was looking for New Thought churches that would be open. All of them were closed, except UnitySF. From the moment that I entered this space, I was engulfed by love and light. One of the first people I met was Reverend Ken, and his warm smile and genuine interest as to why I was there took me by surprise. I felt the same warmth and compassion from all of you. Even more surprising was that I realized I could be both gay and spiritual. And up to this point in my life, those two things were separated, so I was able to be unified. A couple weeks later, I had lunch with Reverend Ken because I wanted to figure out this whole gay journey and what it meant for me. And he asked me, could you allow yourself to be loved by another man? And I had no answer for him because you see, up to this point, I'd never allowed anyone to fully love the deepest, truest side of me. But as it turned out, the very next night, I had dinner with a very handsome, charismatic, funny man named John. And it was remarkably easy to allow myself to be loved by him. Here we are, a year later, Easter. John and I live in this beautiful house that we've manifested with our cute little doggy Graham, and we are surrounded by love. I never could have imagined 2 years ago that my life would have so much life. My tomb is empty.
David Montecalvo.
We can't tell, we carry them well, but that doesn't mean they're not heavy. The parts we can't tell, we carry them well, but that doesn't mean they're not heavy. The anonymous ones, noticed by none. The parts we can't tell, we carry them well, but that doesn't mean they're not heavy. Ana Araujo.
Hello. Hello. I was in bed, depressed, lonely. I wanted to die. I kept on drinking to numb the pain. My mother kept insisting that I come to the States, back to the States. My two little ones, I've forgotten I had them. I don't know. I was not paying attention to them. And finally, her love brought me back to California. And she helped me get the kids into really good schools. And then driving to pick them up from school, I saw Unity. And I remembered that I used to go before I got married and had kids, and I lived here. I used to go to Unity on 9th Street. And I started going to Unity, and I started remembering the spiritual truths: empathy, resilience, acceptance. I started letting go, and I started feeling forgiveness for my ex who had left me. Being in Unity, I felt I belonged. And I started working. I started taking care of my kids, and that was the first resurrection. Then, after a few years, I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And they told me that only 3% survive. And I thought I was going to die. So after chemo, I felt like all this brain and body pain, and I survived. And here I am. And I am so grateful of being here, belonging to this community. Thank you.
Ana Araujo, take your bow. Look at your face.
The parts that we share show how we care, that we're steadfast and rock steady. The parts that we share show how we care, that we're steadfast and rock steady. Even when we're undone, we are all one. The parts that we share show how we care, that we're steadfast and rock steady. Alan Klein.
May 3rd, 1978. That was the day the ambulance came to take my wife home from the hospital. My wife, Ellen. She was coming home from the hospital because the doctors said there was nothing else they can do for her. I had been in her hospital room that whole week before, sleeping on a cot next to her bed. So when we got home, there was no food in the house. So I told my mother-in-law, who was with her, I'm going to run to the grocery and get some food. When I came back, my mother-in-law was standing on the stoop of our house screaming, "Alan, Alan, come quickly. Ellen has just died." I ran in the house, I dropped the groceries, I ran up the steps, I went into the bedroom, and there was Ellen lying on the floor. And my mother-in-law was frantic. She was going, "Call the undertaker, call the undertaker." And I said, "Let's just wait, or let's just wait." And just then my daughter, our daughter, Sarah, 10 years old, came home from school. And I called down to Sarah, "Sarah, come up here. Mommy has just died." And we sat on the floor next to Ellen, and we held her hand. And we told her how much we loved her. And we said our goodbyes to her. And then we stood up, and I told Betty, "Now you can call the undertaker." In the weeks that followed, I kept questioning, why is this happening to me? Ellen was 34 at the time. Why is this happening to me? I didn't ask for this. I didn't sign up for this. And I kept questioning, how am I going to go on with my life? And little did I know that down the road, I would be standing on the stage of the Grand Ole Opry Hotel, 1,500 people in the audience. And I told them Ellen's story and how her sense of humor helped me get through that difficult, dark time. And I told them this story. I said, Ellen was in the hospital with a copy of Playgirl magazine, and she said, Alan, I really like this nude man this month. Can you put it on the wall by the bed over there? And I said, Ellen, this is a hospital. And she said, well, maybe you're right. She said, why don't you get a leaf from the plant and cover up this part? And I did that, and things are fine for the first day, fine for the second day, but the third day, the leaf starts shriveling up. Well, we would come home from the hospital, and we would remember that leaf and that story, and we would start to laugh. And I realized that humor helps us rise above any difficult situation. So it was hard to believe, but I then wrote, based on Ellen's story, I wrote my first book, The Healing Power of Humor, which was printed in 10 languages, 9 of which I cannot read. Also, little did I know that one day I'd be at Unity Village, and I took a workshop called Akashic Records. And in Akashic Records, they believe that our whole life is available to us. It's recorded somewhere, the past, the present, and our intended future. And so after the teacher led us into a long, long meditation, I asked Ellen, why did you leave us? And she said, my life on earth was done. I was finished. She said, but don't worry, Alan. I sent David to you. David, my husband, my love of life, and my play pal. And you know, we've been together 42 years, and people say, Alan, why are you together 42 years? How is that possible? And I realized preparing this speech that may be possible because I've always called him the wrong name. See, on his birth certificate, his name is really Dave. For 42 years, I've been calling him David, and I think he thinks I'm speaking to someone else, so he doesn't listen, and he doesn't answer. Today, April 17, 2022. Here I am in another stage, talking to the audience at Unity San Francisco and reminding them that when we're in those dark times, sometimes we can't see down the road. We don't know what's going to happen to us. But the thing that I realize is that in those dark times, I need to trust. I need to trust that this too will pass. I need to trust that I am in the right path. And I also need to trust that the light always follows the darkness, just the way morning follows the night. So in closing, I want to share lyrics from a song that has kept me in my dark times when I had those, kept me going. And it's a song from Carousel. And the lyrics are, when you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain. Through your dreams are, though your dreams, sorry Oscar Hammerstein. Though your dreams are tossed and blown. Thank you. It's right there. though your dreams are tossed and blown. Walk on, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Alex. Okay. So in this moment, all of those stories, how powerful, how touching, how amazing each and every one of them are. I learned things that I didn't know, and I rehearsed with all of them. And I was inspired. Each and every one of them represents your story. And when we stand up and tell our story, when we stand up and claim our own redemption, our own resurrection, and we share it, we show other people that it is possible to overcome. That no matter what happens to you, there is always light, because you are the light. You are the light in the darkness. You are the light that drives out the fear. You are the light and the love and the presence that changes the world for you. Your story is a miracle. Share it, spread it, give it.
The parts that we share show